Hi everyone, it's Victor speaking, and I hope you have enjoyed the Jupiter in Pisces video because today we're going to be going through each of the sign and the houses, what it means to have Jupiter transit. I mean, in each of your houses. So we're going to be going through each of the rising sign. Let me get that straight. So, but just to cover up on Jupiter a little bit, wherever it goes, it expands. And remember, I mentioned a very important keyword previously, that Jupiter is going to be expanding things which is in your current life at the moment. So if you are on a lost track, then Jupiter is going to magnify those as well. I tend to be calling Jupiter as the magnifying glass because sometimes you don't see things, and it kind of wants you to gain more knowledge about that. So, but very rare occasions when we start with Pisces first, the Pisces rising sign first, but of course, you are going to be one of those who is going to be the most affected. So when Jupiter transits the first house, there is going to be an increased need for growth and an expansion, and whatever is going on in your life, it's going to be impacting or influencing how you present yourself to the world and how you take action on things. So the first house is very much to do with one-to-one negotiations and how I represent myself to the world. And on the other hand, this is a beginning of a new cycle as well. Why is that? Because the first house indicates new beginnings. And whenever a planet is hitting your rising sign, mostly those will fail who have got their rising sign in the first decan, especially in the first 3 degree of the rising. If you don't have your rising sign there, most probably you are going to be influenced a lot more in the first 7 months of 2022, while Jupiter is going to be going through the rest of the energies in the first house. So this is about new beginnings. So therefore, it is a brilliant time to begin new projects or to make some type of commitments to some personal developments in your life, right? So Jupiter is going to be expanding the desire to assert yourself and to get out a little bit more. And, probably even you can have a little bit more physical energy as well, or even more self-confidence when it comes to you. What I recommend is look back in the last 12-year period. What was going on? How did you live through that moment? Was it good? Was it bad? And how could you have made it better? So, Jupiter is all about doing things in a big way. So you are going to be motivated to achieve a lot more. It's all about finding that confidence, whatever you have wanted to do for a very long time. So yes, there are a couple of negative things we're gonna have to mention as well. Traditionally, Jupiter in the first house, because it represents the body, could indicate that you're gonna be putting on some weight as well. But it does not necessarily have to happen. It's more about gaining some type of vision into the future, right? Because Jupiter is all about envisioning things. So, and then you can come forward with those visions. You can actually manifest some of your dreams as well, right? Maybe your hunches, your intuition are going to be working a lot better, or you're going to have a sense of like prophecy coming through dreams and uh, and visions. What is ahead of you for the future, and what can you do in 2022 especially? But look at the current trends in your life, because whatever is going to be happening the next 3 months, that's pretty much going to summarize for you the entire 7 months as well, or it's going to be highlighting opportunities for you, what to overcome or what to do in a different way. Opportunities are going to be knocking on your door, but you're going to have to see those. I usually, whenever a planet hits the rising sign or the first house, I usually say that this is talking about changes in your environment. And this is a very much of an ideal time to figure out who you are or what you can do or how you can improve your life. It might be actually increasing your belief system. It might be increasing your, as I said, the security level about yourself, so your self-confidence. Maybe you want to be playing out some of your talents. Maybe actually you find people who are somehow supporting your life, right? But also first house Piscean, Jupiterian energies, an increased amount of desire to have more knowledge about something. So letting go of some of the old ideas are also in the cards, because what's interesting is that the first house represents new beginnings. Pisces represents something to do with endings. So in order for us to start a new project in our life, you're going to have to close a couple of chapters as well. Remember, Pisces is all about surrendering, giving up on things, right? So maybe there are some type of prejudice or some things which are holding you back of growth. And Jupiter is also going to be highlighting those for you. And the deeper sense of meaning to life is also going to be very prominent for you. Of course, have a look at where Jupiter comes from in your natal chart and try to combine those areas of life. Now, let's not forget that Jupiter does rule, not only rules your first house, but it rules your 10th house as well. So this could really indicate some type of career changes as well. All you need is more positive outlook and optimism. You need plenty of physical vitality, because we know that when things go wrong, Pisces tends to be going behind the scenes, right? Envision the future possibilities and make sure that you do some type of self-developmental or improvement in your life. The negative side of it is something to do with increased appetite, so you can gain some weight, or you over-exaggerate the importance of the self. And you might not be paying attention to others. And it could also indicate some type of arrogance as well. Okay. So this is a brilliant time to be supportive towards others, especially those who are struggling or they have got issues at the moment with their moral codes, right? Or it could also give you the power to make others be more optimistic, for instance. So that was the Piscean rising sign. So let's go on to what happens to Aries. And the Aries people are going to be having their transit in the 12th house. Now, well, you know, not the easiest house, but we still talk about growth and expansion. So maybe there is going to be more of a subconscious and spiritual connection with the divine for you, Aries. Maybe, again, this is a kind of a renewal for you because you're going to be connecting more to the hidden world, or you're just going to be shifting between spiritual dimensions. But it is also a great time to learn about spirituality or even healing some past life trauma, right? Aries in many times said not to be fast or to slow down or not to be punching, not to be protecting themselves. So maybe you're going to have to let go of all these old wounds and belief systems, what you were given by your parents or by the society, right? So it's all about moving between dimensions, really. So how am I going to bring some of my fears into the into light, basically. But also you might feel that your ego is somehow fading in the background. So you might see that things are not spacing out as quick as you would like to, because most probably you're going to have to look at, the facts. You're going to have to see what's going on beyond the facts as well, right? So probably this Jupiter is going to be asking you to have a look at, to have a closer look at yourself and the world, right? So how you can be more compassionate, how you can practice more empathy, how you can actually help others who are suffering. So somehow there is an increased desire to help others. And Aries, your higher manifestation level is all about empowering others, to kind of create your own empire and motivating others to do better. So it's not just about healing yourself, but it's healing others as well. So you might want to get involved more in charity works, or you might want to be practicing meditation, or you might want to be going on a retreat. So I'm really hoping this year I will be able to put a retreat together. And if I do so, I'm really hoping I'm going to be seeing plenty of Aries people there, right? So inspiring others. Now, maybe this Jupiter also gives you the possibility to study your dreams a little bit, to have an increased faith in yourself. I would call this period of time more like a spiritual renewal for you. Somehow get in touch with your guardian angels, or actually you might feel that the guardian angels are a lot more around you, and you're going to be able to communicate with them a lot more. Now, a couple of negative things. It might be a lot harder for yourself to be grounded, and you might feel a lot more spaced out. So you want to be a little bit in the hidden zone, which is not necessarily so true for an Aries rising sign. So maybe some of you Aries are going to be licking their own wounds as well, unfortunately. So let's not forget that Jupiter rules your 9th house and the 12th house this time around. So it's going to be very important that you work with your belief system. 9th and 12th house are so spiritual energies. It's the meaning to life, but you're going to have to approach that from a spiritual perspective. Also, it's a very good time to study something metaphysical, for instance, or you want to be tuning into some type of healing profession. Some of you might actually want to actually relocate to foreign countries. Maybe you want to be living on an island, for instance. The 9th and the 12th house are very much connected to knowledge. And that's what Jupiter represents as well. So maybe you're going to be gaining some type of knowledge through some type of losses as well at the same time. So moving on to our Taurus rising people who are going to be having their Jupiter transit in the 11th house. Now, let's not forget that for you, Taurus, Jupiter rules the 11th house as well as the 8th house. These are very financial houses. So 11th house is something to do with the gain from work. So maybe you have had a couple of struggles during your career or your professional life in the last 1 year, and maybe you have lost your faith. So maybe this time around, this Jupiter is asking you to restore your faith and invest some time and money into something which is about your long-term goal. So which way do I want to be going? Do I want to be on social media? In many cases for Taurian people, actually, that works with that Pisces 11th house energy. Why is that? Because Pisces rules anything to do with videos and YouTube channel, and the 11th house is a social media house. But so basically there is an expansion around your long-term goals. How I relate to the society at a larger level. So how am I going to be showing my skills to the world? Right? And this Jupiter can actually help you to gain a better a better sense of role about yourself within the society. So this is very much about this house is very futuristic. and it's all about advisory people. So how can I advise others, or how can I influence other people's life, right? Especially on a personal level. So definitely, this is so much to do with the purpose. And it's more about the benefits, the gains I can be creating for myself this year. Some of you definitely will be experiencing financial growth. As I said, both the eighth house and the 11th house are very financially orientated. The eighth house is more about inheritance or some type of investment, or even it could be that you do some type of spiritual practices and you have been struggling to attract some type of clients. So this time around, that Jupiter actually can help you to do so. Now, 11th house is very much connected to friends. So you might get to know some type of benefactors in your life. 11th house is the luckiest house of all. And that's Jupiter's favorite placement as well. So it must kind of bring you some goodies, surely. Okay, maybe it's going to be the fact that you get to know someone you want to be working with, or this is the time when you can increase your social media channel, or you can learn how to expand your horizons through technological perspective, right? Or how you can integrate yourself into a larger groups of people. Maybe you're going to be teaching a larger group of people. That's also very possible. Now, some of you might be experiencing gains through tax returns. Both the 11th and the 8th house are connected to tax, because the tax is something which is coming from the government. So that's the 10th house. So the second from the 11th is the money from the government. So you might be receiving some type of benefit, or you might be receiving some type of compensation. And maybe some of you are going to be increasing their wealth also through inheritance as well, unfortunately. So you can be receiving plenty of support from friends, or you can be making new friendships all over the world, basically. So this aspect is all about increased networking. You might be connecting a new group, or you join a club type of things, or you're going to be working with the society a lot more. You might be receiving pay rise, for instance, but also you might be having a vision around what's coming in the next few years for you. Some of you, I'm guessing, going to be leaving their job as well for a better payment. Now, the 11th house, as I said, is all about advice. Advice is from elderly people. So some of you might not be listening, and that's going to be something you need to be watching out for in the next 3 months. I mean, from May till July, to be ensuring that you're watching out for personal improvements. And also, it's not just about wanting to get love, but I also share love with others as well. Now, moving on to our Gemini rising people who are having their Jupiter going through the 10th house. And Jupiter is going to be ruling your 10th and also your 7th house. Now, one thing I would like to put out there, some of the Gemini can actually can get settled down, meaning that they can get married. In many cases, the 7th and the 10th house, when they get activated at the same time, then it is talking about marriage or divorce. Now, let's not forget that you do have got the South Node going through your 7th house, which could indicate that some of the challenges in the relationship needs solving, and that Jupiter is going to be highlighting that for you. So maybe some of you gonna have to make a choice between whether I'm gonna be choosing my relationship or my work life. But the 10th house, Jupiter is very much talking about some type of growth when it comes to the career, vocation, and an element of sense of responsibility when it comes to the overall structure of your life, right? So this transit can really help you to improve your career prospects, but it can take away the attention from your seventh house matters as well, which is very much about relationship. Now, some of you might want to gain some publicity, and actually, it's very possible with Jupiter going through your 10th house because that's the highest point of the sky, and because it rules your seventh house as well, which is somehow something to do with the admirers or basically the social media. So it's very, very possible. It might not be something which you are receiving plenty of money for, but in a long run, it could be something you gain from, especially the second part of 2022, when Jupiter is going to be moving into your 11th house. So this is more about a little bit of a foundation of being able to have a new career. Also, it can give you an increased self-confidence again, or it could give you new opportunities when it comes to wanting to change your career. Some of you might actually be rewarded for their hard work. Again, pay rise is very possible. Or you're going to be having a lot better relationship with your boss. Maybe it's not going to be you who is growing, but there is going to be a new boss coming into the picture who is going to be helping your development at your workplace. I feel like plenty of you are going to be having new projects, and the work life could be a lot more smooth, going or flowing smoothly. And if you are self-employed, then your business definitely can expand as well. Yeah, pretty much. I feel like we've mentioned the most important ones. Now, also very possible that you're going to be traveling because of business opportunities. So you're going to have to be connecting with foreigners. In many cases, seventh house does indicate that someone is living at two places at once, especially when the moon is there. So you might be getting a opportunity for not necessarily relocating, but some type of business travels. Now, the negative side of this transit is that something you need to be watching out for is that you can pay way too much attention to your business, um, which can be leading to some type of personal problems later on, or you might be overestimating yourself when it comes to your professional circle, and then that Pisces leads to some type of disappointment. Also pay attention because other people might see you a little bit more arrogant as well. Now, when it comes to Cancer rising sign, then you are going to be having your Jupiter transiting your ninth house. So Jupiter rules the ninth and the sixth house here. Now, when Jupiter goes through the ninth house, the number one transit, the number one meaning which comes to my mind is learning something new. So if you are a younger person, for instance, even if you are older, you might want to be studying something. You might come up with a new idea about, yes, I'm going to be doing that course, which is eventually going to be influencing my career as well. But some of you are definitely going to be struggling a little bit. The reason being is because you want to be finding the meaning to life. So remember that the South Node is going through your sixth house. And you might be a little bit depressed about, I don't know which way to go. I don't really see, I can't really envision where my life is going. So that Pisces Jupiter can bring you some type of confusion. So one of the best ways is if you really look up some type of courses, because this is a brilliant time to learn about yourself, about some type of professions as well, because you might be frustrated or you might be even experiencing some type of health issues in your life because you feel stuck. And if that's the case, then definitely kind of look at the Jupiter as a pause of wanting you to experience something new and to have some type of adventure, doing something which you really enjoy doing. Now, also the ninth house is so much to do with long distance travels. So some of you might want to be exploring the world, or some of you might even want to relocate as well. And that's how you want to be leaving your old life behind, right? The South Node in your sixth house, right? But something to do with self-knowledge, increased knowledge, or you might be part of an involved. You might be getting involved in some type of foreign matters, or you might come up with the idea that I want to be doing something to do with export and import. And that's why you're going to be traveling, for instance, for business or just for personal enjoyment as well. Um, if some of you who are looking for a second marriage, then this Jupiter transit also can give you that. Some of you who might be getting involved in some type of education, so maybe you're going to be holding courses, or you are going to be teaching something at work. So maybe a new person is coming in and you're going to have to share your knowledge to them. Yeah, so pretty much that's what I feel like the ninth house Jupiter is going to be bringing you, Cancer. Oh, and also I wanted to mention that some of you might become a grandma as well, or grandparents, grandfather, because the ninth house is the kids of your kids also. So that's very possible. And maybe that's the way, or that's the reason why you're going to have to study, because a little bit of a new age type of parenting and so forth. So that's also very, very possible. Now let's move on to our Leo rising people. You're going to be having your Jupiter going through your eighth house. And therefore, Jupiter rules your eighth and rules your fifth house as well. Now, if that's something you would like to have, Leo rising, then you can actually get pregnant this year. And that's one of the greatest news probably I can give you. So it can bring you expansions through having a baby. But the Jupiter can also increase something to do with your expenditure as well. So eighth house is very much to do with other people's resources. So even some of you might want to be having more income also. Fifth house is very much to do with self-employment. Eighth house is other people's money. So I kind of feel like it happens when someone is working in the service industry. So so that's definitely a positive. But this is not necessarily the easiest transit, because definitely some deep soul searching also need to be dealt with. This Jupiter is going to be asking you to somehow deal with the idea of sexuality, death, and occult studies. So if you are having some type of trust issues, eighth and the fifth house are very much to do with romantic life and something to do with the dating. The eighth house is all about the bonding with the partner. So if there are some issues around that, this Jupiter is going to be highlighting those for you. Now, some of you might be receiving inheritance, but you don't necessarily need to be expecting that, because Jupiter is going to be transiting your eighth house every 12 years. So hopefully we're not losing everyone, or someone every 12 years. Right? But one way or another, that Jupiter talks about rebirth. So, and that's the reason why it's a little bit of a harder transit, because you're going to have to put something behind, and there needs to be a new you coming out of the end of the transit. And if you do so, then you're going to be benefiting financially and and spiritually and on a physical level as well. Now, if you are on a relationship, then that Jupiter is definitely asking you to take this relationship to a new level. So it's going to be asking you to have a look at how much you have grown in the last couple of years in your relationship. And is the bond strong enough between the two of you? Because if it's not, then maybe it's time to start working on that. Now, if you want to get a loan, this is going to be quite a good period of time, because that Jupiter can help you in that department. Yeah, so that's pretty much. So to summarize on that, possible to take out loan or receiving, for instance, a tax return as well. Or if you have had issues with a financial settlement, then actually that Jupiter can help you in that department also. Hopefully that Jupiter brings increased intimacy in your relationship. But the negative side of this Jupiter is that you might borrow too much money and you can't really afford paying that back, right? And another negative issue is that you can even gain some type of um, sexually transmitted disease as well. Okay, some of you might need, for instance, an operation. Oh, and the baby. Let's not forget about that either. Okay, so moving on to our Virgo rising people, where Jupiter is ruling the 7th house and the 4th house, and Jupiter is going to be transiting your 4th. So a couple of things which come to my mind straight away: moving together with a partner, a possible marriage could be also happening. But also it can bring an end of a relationship as well. The reason being is because the 4th house is something to do with relocation and end of things. So that's unfortunately very possible. But the whole idea here is to expand yourself in your one-to-one relationships. So this is a very good time to improve of your existing relationship, or just to focus on your close partnerships, such as business partnerships. So if you have been wanting to sign a contract with someone for a long time, or to work with a bigger company, that's also very, very possible. So some type of gains through partnership, marriage, even business opportunities as well. You can easily meet someone from another country, someone who has got a completely different background, or even they come from a different age group as well. But somehow that person can help you to expand how you look at the world. So basically broadening your horizon. Some of you can enjoy also something to do with publicity. And then in that case, Jupiter can bring a couple of issues, because am I going to be protecting myself in the public world, or am I actually going to be enjoying, the way people look at me? So this is also a very good time to get some professional assistance. So such as if you need a lawyer, or you need to consult with someone, or maybe even if your relationship is going through some troubled time, then actually having someone around who is going to be helping to establish the relationship again. 7th house rules over doctors. So if you have got some medical issue within the family, that's also very possible that you might find an expert in that field, what you need. Now, 7th house does rule over court cases. So if you have had a court case going on for a very long time, maybe that's going to be a period of time when you can put a closure to it, and somehow you can benefit from it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be winning, but it could indicate that somehow you still come out of the situation in a great way. Great. So Did I mention everything? So some type of successful business associations or negotiations could be coming. You can be experiencing freedom in your relationship. Oh, and you can even have your partner getting, for instance, more money from somewhere, right? The fourth house is your partner's job. So maybe your partner is going to be changing job, which is going to be increasing the family's financial situation. Okay. Um, One negative I would still mention that when Jupiter is going through your seventh house, you tend to be giving out a lot more from yourself than in any other cases. So make sure that this is not about just giving, but receiving something in your relationship also. Okay, so looking at how I relate to others is very crucial with these transits. Great. So moving on to our Libra rising people. So you're going to be having Jupiter going through your sixth house, and Jupiter is going to be ruling your sixth and the third. So some of you will be experiencing some expansions through third house matters as well, which is so much to do with communication and social media and business opportunities, how I deal with my thought patterns and so forth. But why is that important for us? Because the sixth house, on one hand, is all about work. So this Jupiter can give you growth and expansion in your daily jobs. So increased responsibility are very much in the cards. And with that Pisces, sometimes you might not know how to deal with that. Again, another negative things I would like to mention, watch out for your weight, because the sixth house is so much to do with what I put into my body, but also something to do with whether I do, for instance, gym, or, what do I do about my body on an everyday level. So there is a possibility with overindulgence when Jupiter is going through the sixth house. It kind of wants you to have a daily routine. So establishing your daily routine and making sure that you bring some type of joy and happiness into what you do, or joy and happiness into your daily schedule, basically. Now, some of you might be going through some type of health matters as well, unfortunately. And that Jupiter wants you to kind of, again, watch out for the habits, what you are having and how you're dealing with that health matter. Right? So that Jupiter kind of wants you to physically get stronger. But if you have been ill for a while, then actually this Jupiter can bring you some type of healing into your life as well. So make some positive changes around your diet, because sixth house is so much to do with digestion. Okay. And as I said, be careful about overindulgence. Some of you might be getting actually a better job, something which is improved and gives you more opportunity. And it kind of helps you to feel more fulfilled there. It might not be about gaining more social status or kind of power, but it's something which in the long run could be working very greatly for you. um, Yes. And also some of you might want to be working in medical fields, or you might want to be providing a service to others. That's also very possible when Jupiter goes through the third house. Why is that? Because as I said, Jupiter does rule your third as well, which is very much about business transactions. So this is a great time to actually make a little bit more money as well, because six is the second from the fifth. So the money from the self-employment. Some of you might actually want to change their lifestyle through opening their own business. Moving on to our Scorpio rising people. So Jupiter is going to be going through your fifth house. And it also rules your fifth and the second house as well. So, well, one thing which definitely comes to my mind is self-employment again, and somehow increasing my financials through opening up my own business. But it's very possible also that you're going to have increased expenditures because maybe a baby is going to be on the way, right? That Jupiter wants you to be very creative and making sure that you express yourself the best way or the way you want to be expressing yourself. So it's more about being optimistic and happy. So definitely something to do with going out with my partner or taking an excursion with my children are very much on the cards, uh, and not necessarily worrying about what other people think about me. So if there is something which is holding you back, and there is something you deny within yourself, then this transit could be something which is a little bit harder to deal with, because that Jupiter is going to be highlighting the fact that you don't need to apologize or you don't need to feel guilty about who you are, right? It kind of wants you to become a little bit more selfish, actually. So, and that's hard for a Scorpio rising because it's a hidden dimension, right? And having fun and socializing with others might be something which is a little bit harder for them. It doesn't mean that I need to be doing in a large group of people. The fifth house is more about just having a few best friends around me, or yeah, just having a few best friends around me. So that Jupiter, because it rules your second, it also wants you to increase your self-worth and being more acceptive towards others and letting them see me through as well from time to time. Great. So when it so it's very possible that you're going to be able to sell your creative work, or you receive some recognition for your creativity. Pregnancy and childbirth, I've already mentioned. Spending some quality time with your children, very possible. Oh, and a very important one, if you are single, that Jupiter definitely wants you to get out there a little bit and ensuring that you have fun with others. Jupiter in the fifth might indicate that I'm going to have to kiss a couple of frogs before one of them turns into a Prince Charming. So please ensure that you do so. A couple of negative ones which I forgot to mention. You know, fifth house is so much to do with gambling, so taking risks, and Jupiter can also enhance that. So sometimes it wants you to step back a little bit, be that Scorpio rising, don't forget about it, who is very committed to projects, but it's a little bit calculative as well. So calculative businesses, taking risks, could be something which might be a little bit a challenge for yourself, okay? And you can be a little bit more about me type of energy. So as I said, ensure that you allow others to see you through as well a little bit. Okay, moving on to Saggy rising people. Obviously, you're going to be impacted quite a lot as well, because Jupiter rules your first and the fourth house, and Jupiter is going to be going through your fourth house this time around. So the fourth house is very much about family. So some of you definitely will increase the number of the family members, meaning that maybe a baby is going to be also on the way. Very, very, very possible. But also, this is something to do with your home improvement also. So, or you might want to be decorating your home, or you might want to purchase a new home, or it is just about making it more comfortable, or you're going to be building an extension to your home environment, right? Or it might be just about making actually a new move, actually. So moving somewhere else, relocation is also very, very possible. Now, if you are having some type of family issues, which hasn't been really cleared up. Jupiter is going to magnify those as well. And it kind of going to ask you to deal with that, right? Because you're going to have to see the bigger picture with that Jupiter. You're going to have to envision a better family for yourself. Fourth house is very much about the lands as well. So some of you might not be buying property, but they're going to be starting to buy lands. And then when Saturn actually joins in 2023, maybe you're going to start something to do with building a house actually. Right? This is going to be a possibility also to be selling your home or to start something to do with your with real estate management as well. Now, the fourth house is so much to do with your inner security as well. So if you don't really feel secure about yourself, then this unfortunately is going to magnify the issues for yourself, which on one hand is good because you're going to see where the problems are coming from. So that eventually that Jupiter can offer you kind of an inner peace and inner stability as well. So definitely Jupiter wants to increase your or boost your self-confidence, to get in touch with your inner self and really looking at what you truly desire. So a couple of other things I would mention here, especially as a negative, that you might be overspending money on home improvements. That's also very, very possible. But on a positive level, you might be a lot more understanding towards your family as well, especially if you had some type of issues there. Now, moving on to Capricorn rising people. So you Capricorn going to be having your Jupiter transiting your third house. And Jupiter rules your 12 and the third house also. So when you have got a Jupiter in the third house, well, there is an expansion and growth about the way you think and the way you communicate. So one of the social media houses for me. So maybe it's about closing one social media channel and then starting a new one, which is going to be a lot more improved. If you have got a website, this Jupiter might be telling you that there must be some new ways to approach your website. So maybe a new name, maybe a new design to it, especially design because it's Pisces, right? But also this is a brilliant time when new ideas are just popping up in your head. So you really can expand your horizon, especially through taking part in courses. It's all about learning new skills, right? And maybe you're going to have also a new hobby, which, by the way, I also forgot to mention for the fifth house as well, that you can really channel that Jupiter through gaining some new hobbies. But that's true for the third house transit as well. So maybe your immediate environment is going to be growing quite a lot. You might be more in touch with your siblings, or some of you actually, you might be having a new sibling coming into the picture, right? Somehow the everyday communication is going to be increased. If you have got a social media channel, you might actually be posting more pictures or more material, right? Because Jupiter does want to teach somehow. Okay. So that's very possible. Maybe your way of thinking is going to be a lot more positive, and your attitude towards other people's or your immediate environment will be a lot more broad-minded as well. Yes, you might be actually giving ideas to others of what they should be doing. But I feel like you can learn a lot about the world. Be careful because you can easily become a part of some type of gossips, or sometimes you might be speaking your mind without worrying what other people think, and that's very positive. But also sometimes you might be a little bit harsher when it comes to your communication style. Of course, it very depends on what planet you've got in the third house or where Jupiter is actually. And it's also very possible that sorry, I need to have a sip. I think I've been talking too much. um, that you're gonna have a stronger desire to write something, and then eventually that might get published, especially when Jupiter, for instance, gets into your fifth house. But I feel like Jupiter here is also expanding your future plans as well. So you might be envisioning something about, "Ooh, I want to be having a retreat center, and then I'm going to start talking about that," right? Or overall, how I can improve my everyday life. Because the third house is so much to do with commuting, but more about the commuting, like when I go to the shop or I go to work, and maybe I'm going to be meeting some people on the way. But also, some of you might be traveling a lot more as well, especially about business matters. Speaking about business, Jupiter really can give you growth in your business life as well. Now, does Jupiter does rule your 12th house. So some of you might also experience some losses, especially some financial expenditures and bigger expenditures. So make sure that you don't necessarily lend money to friends, because I do associate the third house with your close friendships. Also, watch out because you might be taking on way too many projects, right? You have got quite an enhanced way of thinking at the moment with plenty of ideas, and that might be causing some type of issues. You might be running around like chicken without heads and nothing gets done. Okay. And you might be talking way too much, but you forget to listen as well. So if you've got those tendencies, then please pay attention to that. And I'm very sorry leaving Aquarius people to the last, but we had to start with Pisces, not because I've got a Pisces rising sign, but this Jupiter is more about the Pisces people. So Aquarius, I might have got a couple of good news. If you have had experience some type of financial restriction in the past, then it's very possible that Jupiter is going to be granting you some great money. Jupiter does rule over your 11th and the second house, which I've already mentioned that this is very much about financials, and it can really give you an increased ability or increased self-worth as well to change your long-term goals, right? Which you might be benefiting from. So something to do with the material security, or you might be increasing somehow your resources, or you might be thinking about investing money into some projects, which gives you a great return as well. If you have had financial issues in the past and you haven't really sorted them out, unfortunately, this might be bringing you financial expenditure as well, unfortunately. Okay. You might need to be considering some type of training and education also, and maybe your attitude somehow towards work or towards your long-term goals need to change as well, right? So the big question is, how am I going to live an improved life, which is going to kind of give me financial abilities as well at the same time? So, it is said with Jupiter being in the second that you're going to be getting rich. That's not necessarily the case. Okay. However, it can improve your financials, but you don't need to be banking on that, right? It might be just improving your cash flow, or it might be gaining just more confidence about how I'm going to be handling my money. And you are a lot more positive and enthusiastic about saving money, and that's going to make you proud, right? So, but this is not just about material gain. It might be just I feel more confident about the future and how I'm going to be making money. The second house is very much about your values. So maybe your value system is going to be increasing quite a lot. Also, Aquarian, watch out for your weight as well, because unfortunately Jupiter tends to increase weight, the food intake, when it goes through the second house, right? This is not just internal, but a spiritual growth as well, what you can be experiencing by having Jupiter in the second house. Okay, so expanding a business, very possible, or learning some new skills to eventually earn more money, or you somehow feel more abandoned. Again, not just on a, as I said, on a material level. Negative side of it is that we can be overspending money. We might be buying anything really which we see in the shop, and we even buy things which we don't need, right? Or we might become way too overwhelmed by having too much stuff around us, right? So this is a little bit of a holding type of aspect as well, which you really need to be careful about. So I'm really hoping this is giving you a very great insight about how to approach this Jupiter transit. So Jupiter is going to be going up to 2.5 degrees this year, spending 3 months in the sign of Pisces. And then next year, it's going to be spending the first 7, 8 months of the year. So some of you will be experiencing some Jupiterian themes already, especially if you've got planets or planets in the first decan of your house, which is the first 10 degree of the house. Okay, so that's very, very important. Now, I also wanted to mention another thing for you, because at the end of the day, we do have got something called essential dignity. And the very first 8 degree of the sign is ruled by Venusian energies. So this is really a time when you can enhance the two benefic planets are somehow, joined up. So also look at what Venus rules in your chart and try to listen to that house as well, what I've described, and how you're going to be combining the two, because you might be getting a little bit more of a greater picture of what that Jupiter might envision for you. Okay? So thank you everyone for your attention. And I hope to see you with my next video, which is going to be, by the way, about Venus entering the sign of Taurus. Have a lovely evening, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.